You are now experiencing the digital life with Kevin Lockett.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Digital Life. On today's show, I'll talk about being a social media champion with Ryan Hollingsworth from Grabowski & Company. Now, when I first started out in social media, my social media champion was Akron Deputy Mayor Dave Lieberth. Now, Dave back then was not as well versed in social media as he is today, but in 2008, he gave me a chance to construct a social media campaign for Lock 3 Park, which was unheard of back then. Nobody, except for maybe the Akron Canton Airport, was doing anything involving social media. So Dave, not even being a social media person, was my champion because he saw the future and he believed in me. Being a champion of anybody means being supportive. Dave Lieberth was that for me. And Ryan is doing that every day by empowering business owners to be active in social media. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Ryan Hollingsworth from Grabowski & Company.
Okay, we're talking to Ryan Hollingsworth. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm fine. You know, I've always enjoyed your name because it sounds like a name off of like a dynasty or Dallas. It has one of those rich character names, like my name is Ryan Hollingsworth. It's very regal and strong.
Yes, movie star name.
Okay, so the reason I wanted to talk to you today, well, let's go back for a second. The first time I met you was back in 2008. And
right.
At that point, and you're working for the Akron Canton Airport.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever asked you this question. How did you get involved with social media? Because even then, there wasn't that many people involved with social media at that point.
Right, and I met you at that time because you were doing social media, and so was I. And I got involved with it right when I started working at the airport. I was hired as our communications coordinator to do PR and communications. And right when I got there, social media was not a big thing yet. You know, there were very few people doing it, not a lot of people in the Akron Canton area doing it for business. And it was something that we just started trying. We thought it really fit with the airport and the airport's brand, and just got into it. And we were the first airport on Facebook. We found out later. But it was something at first where it was like, well, let's just try this. And it worked out really well. Social media did become very big after that, and we were really pioneers in the airport world for doing it first. Right.
I just came from a leadership speech from Dr. Parenza at the University of Akron, and one of the things he mentioned was to have leadership, you have to have someone with a lot of energy. And That's the one thing I know is about your ex-boss now, Christy Van Auken. She has a lot of energy.
Yeah, I mean, she was someone who let me try it and do it and really evolve it, and that kind of energy really helps that. She really trusted me to take the airport's brand into this new territory of social media.
Do you remember your first campaign that you worked on?
I'm trying to think. I mean, this was very early on, so at the time, AirTran was our biggest airline, and we partnered with them, and we were able to give away airline tickets, which really helped attract a lot of fans. So that was one of the first things we did.
And which campaign do you think are you most proudest of during your time there?
I got to do a lot of things. I really loved just taking what was happening at the airport and weaving that into social media. So whether it was, Air Force One landing at the airport, I was right there. I saw Obama come off the plane and took pictures of him and was live tweeting it right from the airport account, and, we were getting tons of retweets, and then there were things like when we got new service to a new destination, we got nonstop service to Milwaukee. I remember we did a big campaign called the Milwaukee Mancation, where we gave away a vacation on AirTran to Milwaukee that was very, man-themed, because it is Milwaukee, so they won a trip to a brewery there. I think they went to a basketball game where the Bucks just happened to be playing the Cavs. So it's just things like that where something was already happening at the airport, and to take that and weave it into social media was always really fun and really exciting.
Yeah. Did Secret Service try to tackle you when you tried to take pictures of the president?
No, but I did have to do a lot of work beforehand with them to be able to get out there. I had to be background checked, and it was actually raining, and I stood out in the rain. We weren't allowed to have umbrellas because they could be used as weapons. So, things like that. You kind of sacrifice yourself for social media, I guess.
That's funny because, if people know you, you're very sunshiny and friendly.
Right.
So I can't see you trying to tackle the president, but you never know.
I know, but it's the president, so security was always really tight.
So now you've transitioned. You're no longer with the airport. Now you're the head of social media for Grabowski and Company. And what exactly is Grabowski and Company?
Grabowski and Company is a marketing agency. We are in Uniontown, which is really close to Canton, and we're all about messaging, marketing, communications, and strategies, and social media has become a really big part of how we communicate today. So what I do, I'm our director of social media. So I coach our clients on how to use social media, whether it is coming up with a campaign, what social media outlets they should be using, how to post, when to post. Some is at, a very beginner level. They're just getting started. Some are more at an intermediate level. They want to start buying ads and promoted posts and have a stronger reach. They feel like they should be reaching more people. So I'm able to come in with the social media piece for our clients and coach them and help them.
One of the things I've come across over the years is that sometimes people will say, well, I want my video to go viral, or I should have this many likes or Twitter followers by this date. They have great expectations, which is fantastic, but sometimes I have to temper them saying, well, it's going to take some time, and sometimes people get upset by that. How do you handle that when people expect large numbers and large tweets and all this big stuff where it really, when it comes to social, it does take time to grow?
Right, and that's usually what I tell them right at the beginning. Social media is a process. You are not going to gain a huge following overnight. And I really am a big believer in let's start and have great content. I really want your content to be top-notch before we start buying ads, paying to make things go viral, anything like that. It all starts with the content and making it really great. So that's usually the first thing I coach them on, is doing that. And it is a commitment. It is a reminder. You're going to go through a very beginner level where you're building, and then you'll hit maybe a year down the line. You're going to feel more comfortable with it and hit that intermediate level and, eventually hit that master level where you really get it, and it's a process. It takes time. So it's just constantly reminding them of that and even encouraging them to stay committed to it when, they post something and they put a lot of thought into it and they worked on the perfect tweet and it got nothing. And, we've all had that happen. So it is some encouragement, just keep trying things and keep experimenting with your content to find out what your audience likes.
So what makes a perfect tweet? Because I've seen some companies, and I would like to retweet them, but they use almost the whole 140 characters. And I always felt like if you make it a little bit shorter, more people can retweet your message. That's how I feel. But in your eyes, what makes a perfect tweet?
Yeah, I like to say 80 characters. So I like to divide the tweet in half. If you can get it down to that, I think that's okay. And post a picture, of course, because the way Twitter is now, you get so much more real estate in the Twitter feed when you post a picture with it. You get about double the space of a tweet without a picture. And I also tell them to use hashtags, and hashtags that are searchable. I think sometimes we get into using a hashtag as a modifier, like hashtag awesome. And, you know, I don't go on Twitter and search awesome. So, you know, if it's a school and they're tweeting about middle school students, go ahead and hashtag that, you know, middle school, or something that is searchable, something that people actually would go on Twitter and search. So that, to me, is a perfect tweet. It's short, has a picture, and you're using searchable hashtags.
The perfect tweet to me is during the Super Bowl when Joe Namath's coach tweeted you.
Right.
Which is fantastic.
Yes, that was interesting. I was actually live tweeting thoughts and musings on the commercials along with several of my coworkers. We made our own hashtag, and we were tweeting under that. And right away, I could not get over Joe Namath's coat. And immediately it became a thing on Twitter. Within seconds, there was a account called Joe Namath Coat, something like that. And I mentioned it in a tweet. I think I said, you know, wow, this is already a Twitter handle. And right away, they tweeted me back. So, yeah, I don't know. I think things like that are very easy to do, but a lot of people tend to be surprised. But I like tweeting celebrities and brands, and most of the time I find that they do tweet me back.
The only thing that would have made that better is if you actually Instagrammed yourself in that coat.
I know. That's such a good idea. I don't have a coat like that, though.
That is my life's work for this year, is to find a coat like that. So one of the things with Grabowski and Company is that you talk about social media champions.
Right.
And what in your eyes make a successful, maybe not the best, but what makes a successful social media champion?
Well, one of the first things that we do before we start coaching a company or an organization or a person on, you know, how to do their social media is we have them identify that social media champion in their organization. And that person is simply the best person in their organization to do their social media, to not only do it, but to passionately elevate it to winning levels, right? They have to be passionate about social media. And nothing is worse when you meet somebody who's, oh, I do social media for our organization and I have no idea what I'm doing, right? So you want someone who cares about it, who maybe they've actively used social media personally. You know, they're pinning a lot, they tweet what they're doing. They're never really without their iPhone, so they're very familiar and comfortable in the social media world already. And they're the kind of person that you trust with your brand because social media is very public. And we've all seen those stories where one bad tweet that somebody did and, you know, they're gone. So you trust them to talk about your brand. They're fast. You know, they can live tweet. They can keep up with what's happening right now because that's what social media is. And they think visually. They're constantly walking around saying, oh, that would make a good post, and I'm going to tweet that, I'm going to Instagram that. They just get it. They kind of see the world through these social media goggles. And they also, you know, they're part of a team. They may be responsible for posting, but I've found that really the best social media champions have, a couple of advocates to help them. Maybe they can take that picture for them of something happening when they're not around, or someone to just brainstorm ideas off of. And I base a lot of this off myself because, I was that social media champion for the airport, some other organizations, and I'm still a social media champion now. I manage the Grabowski and Company Facebook page as well as our Twitter, so I get it. I'm kind of right there with them. But, yeah, you have to find that champion in your organization to do it.
So what is your process when, like you said, you handle the Facebook pages for your company? So what is your process as far as maybe come up with ideas? I mean, how many people do you run it by, or do you have a pad or something at home or a tablet where you write down some ideas before you go to work? I mean, what's your writing process? Because basically, I think we hear tweet and posting, but really you have to be a writer. You have to be creative to come up with things on a consistent basis that kind of engages people.
Yeah, I think I'm constantly thinking of tweets and Facebook posts and pictures and what am I going to do? I mean, it's a 24-hour, you're thinking of it, in the middle of the night, you come up with that great idea. But I like to, for our agency, I've come up with a series of a way of introducing us, and it's called What's on Your Desk. So what we started doing was taking photos. There's about 15 of us in our building, and each week we feature their desk and point out some items on it, whether it's pictures of their family, the AP style book, things that they're using that really show their personality as well. And that was an idea that I came up with as a way to kind of introduce everyone there, and a lot of ideas like that I usually run by someone and brainstorm off of them. We have a traffic manager that works at the agency, and she's responsible for the traffic of all the projects and who's doing what. And she is, to me, that advocate, that social media advocate on the team, because she knows what's going on. So she's really good at saying, oh, they're doing this, and we should take a picture of this, and he's working on this, so let's do this. So that's kind of the process. It's a lot of trying different things, and I found that the best Facebook posts are really pictures of us doing things, whether we're in a meeting brainstorming or at a business, working with a client. Sometimes we can get a picture of them or us talking to them or just us being there and mentioning the organization. People really seem to like that. It seems more personal. So I think we've kind of hit on some of the best posts, but that took some experimenting too. There were some other, ideas that just didn't get that much engagement and catch on.
Yeah. I always found that sometimes you might target Facebook at first, but you might have a stronger Twitter following, or you might just target Twitter and you have a stronger Pinterest following. So I think sometimes people feel like, I got low numbers on Facebook, but you might have a stronger following on Instagram, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of times when we think social media, well, not you and I, but when I first start talking to someone about it, they think Facebook. And it's really easy to fall into that. I'm a very big fan of Instagram and brands using Instagram. I love that. I love Pinterest for businesses. I think that's great. Even LinkedIn. In some ways, I don't even start with Facebook anymore. A lot of times, depending on the organization, we'll start with LinkedIn because I want to get them away from that mindset of we're going to do Facebook. I think it's sometimes easier to build that following on something else.
So which platform do you think is underutilized? Because there's so many out there, but which one are ones do you think people don't use enough?
Because of the video aspect now, Instagram, and maybe even Vine, just because with Vine, you can put that on Twitter. I know there's not a lot of people using Vine, but I think video, these quick-hitting videos that are really easy to do and that would tell a brand story are underutilized. So yeah, I guess video in general, because we tend to think of it as it needs to be professional. I got to hire a videographer. When, if you work at a bakery, you can be taking your own, 10-second video clips of you typing out a pastry. You can be doing that all day long, and it's so easy. It tells the story, and yeah, I don't think it's something that organizations are really taking advantage of enough because they think it's hard.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around Vine, which is a fantastic service, but it's so short. My mind just doesn't work. It's when I see things, it's like, wow, that is really funny, but can I do this in this short amount of time? So I think it's great, but just trying to wrap my head of trying to condense something into a few seconds, that's actually challenging for me right now.
Yeah, it is a challenge. It definitely makes you think, but I like it because we're we're bombarded with messaging from every social media network that a lot of times I think, well, I can sit through 6 seconds and watch this video. So it kind of works for social media, and it's a good introduction to get comfortable taking video, so then you can move on to, okay, I could take a longer video now and put that on YouTube.
So, you've been doing this for a long time, but social media changes so much all the time that you have to keep updating, you have to keep reading and educating yourself. Are there bloggers or writers or videos of people that you follow that really pushes you to learn more and educate yourself when it comes to social?
Yeah, I have followed for a long time, and you've probably heard of them. There are blogs. They're called the Social Media Examiner. I started following them very early on, back in 2007, 2008, and they have just grown huge I think they're publishing original content about social media twice a day now. So I follow them a lot. I've taken their online training session. It's called the Social Media Success Summit. I went through that. And there's a lot of well-known names in the social media world that I follow. Amy Porterfield, I listen to her podcast, Online Marketing Made Easy. And even here locally, the Content Marketing Institute, I've been to Content Marketing World. And in the Akron-Canton area, our friend Sage Lewis and his team, they inspire me just because, they're here in our area. I feel like they understand links, PPC, web, social media as a complete picture. But, more than all those, I think I'm really inspired by these social media champions at their organizations who are really making a go of it, and you can see they're really trying, and their content begins to rise above everyone else's because it's so easy, to put up a Facebook page. But I just admire those small businesses who think big with their social media, and I feel like that's a box you can get trapped into is, oh, I'm a small business, I can't do what these big brands are doing, but you really can. And, when I started working in social media, it was so early that I had no one to look to. So I began looking at Starbucks and Coca-Cola and seeing what they were doing on social media and thought, I can do that too. And so, I guess I admire the person, and I'm inspired by the person who dreams big and has great content and great messaging, and they're coming up with new ideas for social media and evolving it.
Yeah, when I first started doing it for Lock 3, Nine Inch Nails did something where they had tickets for a concert in a graveyard. And I said, well, I can't do that. But I can hide tickets in a bookstore. So you're right. You just back then, you just kind of saw what other people were doing and say, okay, maybe I can do this. I might have to kind of, shorten it down or make it a little bit easier. But yeah, I can do the same things. These big companies, organizations, I kind of miss those days. It was kind of like the Wild Wild West where
Right.
where you could just basically do anything. You still can, but it was just a lot looser back then because it was so new.
Yeah, it was so new. I mean, we were the renegades back then because no one else was doing it, the social media renegades. But it's more cluttered now, and it's hard to stand out. But I see new forms of social media content every day that are just like, wow, I've never thought of that yet. So I'm still learning every day, really.
Yeah. So which apps do you like right now?
I was thinking about this, and I'm female. I love Pinterest. I think, 80% of Pinterest users are women. And when I was thinking about, the things I cook and the clothes I wear, the DIY stuff I do, a lot of that is Pinterest inspired. I love using it for personal use. And I'm also a very visual person, so I love just, if I'm waiting in line somewhere, I'm going right to Pinterest, and I'm just kind of scrolling through and pinning things, and it's very quick and easy to look at. So definitely a high Pinterest user, and I pretty much just use it on my phone. It's not often that I actually go to their website on a computer and use it. I use a lot of apps for photo editing on my phone because, social media, it's all about the photos you're taking, and I found that it's just easier to edit things right on my phone. So there's different apps, Overgram, where you can write text right on your photo, Square Ready, which actually takes a photo and sizes it down so it fits in Instagram better, and there's PicStitch, which you can make a collage. So I use a lot of those time saver apps when I'm doing social media so that I don't have to go back to my desk and bring up the picture and edit it and save it. And then I also use, and I think this app is really underutilized, but Facebook makes an app, and it's just called Facebook Pages, and it's for Facebook page management. So it just has your fan page or your brand page, your company page, and it's more friendly than trying to manage your brand page in the actual Facebook app.
I do have this last question. So let's say I'm a social media champion.
Right.
And I'm doing a great job. But I tweeted something I shouldn't have tweeted. Even I ran across the people that I talked to, we all liked it. But I put it out there, my boss didn't like it. Or a customer just didn't like it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think, if it is truly offensive, or if the boss doesn't like it, and if it's something that maybe just got a little bit of attention, I think you can go in, your Twitter, and if it is something that's causing some bad tweets, I mean, you can apologize. It's hard when you have a boss or a CEO over you who is very skeptical of social media. They haven't embraced it. They don't get it, or they don't really think you should be using it. And I've talked to several people in that situation, and it's very easy to worry about all the bad comments that I'm going to get on my Facebook page if I'm on Facebook. So what I try to do is, if I'm in a situation like that where someone's questioning, should we be on Facebook because we're going to get all these bad comments, or any social media network, really, I try to email them all the good comments that we are getting via our social media networks. And I'll do this repeatedly, because it's really easy to focus on, we got that one bad comment. But usually I've found that the good outweighs the bad. And if they're not on social media, they can't see it. So I'll make sure to be emailing them these comments that people are saying about our brand and show them, we're talking to our customers, we're talking to our vendors, we're talking to our partners and interacting with them. And they like us. And a lot of times, too, if I'm having to convince, someone that they should have their organization on social media, I'll do a social media competitive analysis, and then I'll show it to them. Because it's very easy to see what your competition is doing on social media, and that helps you realize we need to be right there with them. We're missing out. But, the more I think about this, I do have to say that more people and organizations are embracing social media. So I feel like this is happening less and less. And I've noticed that when I started working at Grabowski and Company, many organizations now are at the point where they want to be on social media now. So it doesn't take that much convincing, but it's just usually they don't know where to start, or they want to make sure they're doing it well. So I think the tide is turning a little bit in that, CEOs are starting to see the value of social media.
So what do you use for competitive analysis?
Social media is so visible. So I really just go on and just gather everything the competitor's doing. It's not a fancy process where I'm using different programs. You can usually see what they're doing. So I'll just gather that, put it in presentation form usually, and show them.
And finally, what did you learn from Akron Canton Airport how long were you there?
I was there for 6 years.
Okay, yeah, you were there for 6 years. So what did you learn there with all those years doing social in 6 years that you carry over now to your position as director of social media?
Yeah, I've gone from that champion, and I still very much am that champion, but now my role is more of a social media coach. And I had begun to do that at the airport a little bit as well. I'm involved in some community organizations. I started helping them as well. I really just learned on how to do it well, and was given the freedom to really experiment with social media and to see what worked and what didn't work. I learned how to think of ideas and really point out these social media stories that businesses don't often see, because I've lived that at an organization for so long. So it's very easy for me to identify these social media stories now. And, I was at a company where we were meeting them, talking about how we were going to work with them, and social media coaching is going to be a part of that. And we were in their warehouse, and they were handcrafting their furniture. And to me, that is a social media story, no question. But they didn't see it, and it was right in front of them. So it's being able to identify things like that and point it out. And I think that's what I learned is really, how to tell the story quickly. And that's what I try to teach others now too.
Well, Ryan, no matter if you're a coach or a champion, I think you're doing a lot of great work, and a lot of companies will benefit from your experience.
Thank you.
Well, I had to be nice.
No, it's really, it's such you know how it is working on social media. It's such a different type of job, and still in some ways to do social media full time, it's not something a lot of people really get to do. So I really enjoy it. I think it's really fun.
Yeah, I mean, sincerely, I mean, you have a lot of energy. You really love it. So I think these companies really see your enthusiasm. And if you're not enthusiastic by doing social, you know, it's not going to work. So your enthusiasm, I think, does rub off on everybody that you work with.
Right. Exactly.
So Ryan,
oh.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say you have to have that passion about it. It goes back to really just having that love of social media. You can't do it without that.
Yeah. Well, Ryan Hollingsworth, thank you for the conversation. If people want to find you online or your company or even the Akron Canton Airport, you're still close to that company, where can they find everything about you?
Well, my Twitter is at RY Hollings. And if you want to check out Grabowski and Company, our Facebook page, and see some of the examples I was talking about, we are facebook.com/GrabowskiCO, and that's Grabowski with an I at the end. And then our website is grabowskiandcompany.com. And, yeah, check out the Akron Canton Airport's Facebook page as well. It's facebook.com/Akron Canton Airport.
But thanks a lot, Ryan.
Thank you, Kevin.
I want to thank Ryan Hollingsworth from Grabowski and Company for being a great guest on The Digital Life. Make sure you follow her on Twitter at RY Hollings. And if you want to learn more about Grabowski and Company, be sure to check them out at grabowskiandcompany.com. Before I go, I have a Twitter question for you. Tweet me at Kevin Lockett and tell me, who do you think is a social media champion? Use the hashtag MyChamp. That's a hashtag MyChamp, and tell me, who do you think is a social media champion? All right, everybody. It's The Digital Life. I'm Kevin Lockett, and I'm out.
The Digital Life with Kevin Lockett.